Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast presented by Twisted Tea and My Bookie. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What's up, you old Tennessee Homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, we're getting close. Can you feel it? Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, LSU, Mississippi, all these SEC games.
Yes.
I can't wait.
You know, it's funny because you start seeing these annual memes, you know, like, you saw this one made fun of Florida last year, or this one made fun of Tennessee, and they're starting to make their rounds again. So, you know it's in the air, and I love it because I don't know about you, Mike. I would imagine you got a lot more followers, but I get tagged in these conversations. The next thing you know, I'm like, why do I have 5,000 notifications, you know? And I look, and it is an argument between these two fan bases. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm loving it, brother.
And
we wait all year for this shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's this is what I love it. I wish we had football year round sometimes.
And to your point, Shane, just like today, I put out SEC passing yard leaders, rushing leaders, and receiving leaders. And this is just the top 10, where they're ranked today, heading into week 3. That's all I'm doing. And people are mad as hell, Shane, because A.J. Swann's played 3 games. Spencer's only played 2. How about you do yards per attempt, yards per game? This don't fit your agenda, does it? And it's on and on. And I'm just like, yo.
It just crushes your soul to put Spencer number 1 at anything, doesn't it, Mike?
I'm just saying what it is right now. You know what? But that's the passion, man. That's why we have this show.
Oh, I saw it too with Mike Wright. They're like, well, ain't Mike Wright in here, you know? It's like, well, he's technically not a running back.
Yeah, so, hey, people are fired up, and they're going to be even more fired up this weekend. So we are hoping and praying, Shane, we get some good calls this weekend. On the call-in line, hit us up, 615-965-5152. We'll share that after some of these games, too, because we want people to live reactions, their thoughts on their teams, hopefully winning.
Yeah.
But maybe losing. There's going to be a lot of buzz, a lot of reaction. You know what?
Well, that's the thing, Mike. Up to this point, every fan base, we didn't go into any game where one of the fan bases are going to come away with a loss, you know, guaranteed loss.
Right.
So we can't say that anymore. Week 3 and on, it's SEC action, and there's going to be somebody hurt. It may be Mississippi State. It may be Tennessee. It may be South Carolina. It may be Georgia, you know, but there's going to be one of several schools upset because they got their first loss in the SEC.
Well, it's game of the week, Shane. Tennessee at Florida. So we reached out to Eric Cain from VolQuest, Locked on Vols, to talk about Tennessee. Matt Hayes, our buddy, Saturday Down South, 1010 XL in Jacksonville Radio, Florida, and a little NCAA talk as well with Matt. But so that we're going to get to those interviews in just a minute. But what we've been doing is mailbag on these Wednesday shows. I love answering these questions. So are you ready to answer some questions, buddy?
Absolutely, man.
All right, Shane, from Trey Tucker. If Tennessee plays Florida close, or heaven forbid, Tennessee loses, would the podcast be calling for Nico?
Yeah. I mean,
really?
The podcast? Are you talking about us?
He's talking about you and I.
Yeah. Well, shit, Mike, I kind of yelled for him last week a few times at the Austin Peay game. You know how it is. I mean, you got – I'm not saying I'm a grass is greener kind of guy, but, you know, there is a lot of hype, and we've got to see a couple of flashes of what Nico's going to bring to this program. I think deep down inside, I don't want to see quarterback controversy this year at all. You know, that's
right.
I mean, I'm drinking out of my Joe cup here. You know, I'm all on board. I truly am trying to be optimistic here that Joe just had a bad game. And thank God it was against Austin Peay and it wasn't against Florida. Because if they play like they did last week, this week, they're going to lose. I hope that doesn't happen. So, but if they lose, I wouldn't say a close win. Close win, again, maybe
that's where I'm at. Like we're sitting here saying, "Oh, close win. We got bench your quarterback."
Close win, we're good. But a loss, yeah. I think I'm going to be maybe not full time, but let's start getting him involved, kind of like Missouri, just mixing in the quarterbacks a little bit.
See, I think you're looking at it all wrong, and maybe Joe Milton's just awful, but I don't think he's awful. I mean, we've seen enough of him to know he's got potential, and I've never been one to say he's one of the best either. I think he's kind of middle of the road.
Yeah,
but I think he can win with them, and I don't know if Nico can win at Kentucky, if he can win at Alabama, if he can. I mean, this is a crucial game coming up. What if he shits the bed and Spencer Rattler's red hot?
Yeah.
I mean, then what? You can't just throw in Joe Milton and be like, we lost confidence in you, but go back out there. I mean, this Nico stuff's it's a little crazy right now.
It is, but
we've literally not seen him do anything of significance other than throw a nice pass in a spring game.
They did it to us, as a fan base. They've put him on a pedestal. We've been kissing his ass since he's arrived on campus as the best quarterback to ever sign at the University of Tennessee, and all this money with the NIL and stuff. I mean, this thing's built up, and a lot of it because of media. We've kind of latched onto it, and we've made him bigger than he is. That's what they don't say it. By the time Nico actually comes out there, we're going to think he's 7 foot tall. He's not. He's going to have growing pains. He's a freshman. He's not got a lot of weight on him right now. I mean, there are a lot of disadvantages and mistakes that are going to be made. But the problem I have with Joe is. And it's not even a serious problem. It's just I'm afraid we're going to spiral. And when I think about the Pitt game a couple of years ago, that's what we had. And we ended up losing that game, a game that we should have won. It just, I don't know, man. I don't want to see the wheels come off. And I don't know how glued into media he is or if he's listening to podcasts or shit. Stop, Joe. How many times I've told you to turn this show off? You don't need to hear that. If he could come out and play like he did with Clemson and Vanderbilt, we'll be fine. Tennessee will win a lot of football games. But he's just not caught fire this season. And again, he's working with new receivers. He's working with a new offensive line. It takes a little while, but the runway's over, man. We got to get it this week or you're going to lose.
I can promise you he does not listen to the show. I can tell you that.
I don't know. You never know, Joe.
And one last thing. That was a long response, but Trey also wants to know, we ever bang on the connected wall and yell at each other? That makes me think of Office Space, where he's hitting there. He's like, there's boobs on Channel 5 or whatever.
I'm not going to lie. I had construction guy over there the other day, and I was like, is it hard to just put a door right there? He's like, apparently that's not allowed or something. So couldn't do that. But no beating on the walls yet.
All right, how about from Big Blue Balls, Shane, big Kentucky guy here.
Yeah.
What specific part of Kentucky's team do you doubt after watching the first two games? He's seen things that can be really good at every position. So anything that stand out to you about Kentucky that you're a little concerned about?
Offensive line.
Yeah.
And not so much the first few games here. It's just week 6, week 7, competitive depth. That's my only concern because the way that this team needs to move with they truly are a balanced program. And to do that with Ray and company, they got to keep the push up front.
Me, it's Devin Leary, the hype with him.
Yeah.
And he's not yet matched. He's thrown some nice passes. Keep in mind, Shane, they played Eastern Kentucky and they played Ball State. That's the competition. And there he is right there. Against that competition, number 10 in the SEC in scoring, number 12 in passing yards per completion, number 12 in passing completion percentage, 13 in rushing, and 14th in rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Again, this is the weakest their schedule is going to get. So I'm not saying, 5 alarm over here and they can't get better, and they probably will. It's a new system for some of those players and new quarterback. I get it, but it should be a lot better than what it's been after this competition.
Yeah.
No,
I totally agree with you, and I don't know. We've voiced our frustration last week, going on to this week. It's just We need a complete game, and we've not seen that yet not even close to that. And if they're going to beat Georgia's, if they're going to beat Florida's, they're going to have to, man. They're going to have it because, yes, you've got a lot of cupcakes out of the gate, and thank God, but, week 4, shit gets real.
Question from Joshua Askew, Shane. He's askewed us twice now. What are your top 3 offenses and top 3 defenses in the SEC up to this point? And I got my list. You want me to go and you?
Well, shit, man. I ain't got no list. I ain't even read these questions. I've been trying not to read these questions.
Right, right.
I'll let you go first, and then I'll criticize yours.
Well, I keep getting complaints that we're counting Texas and Oklahoma, so I guess we can't officially count that. But I throw Texas in there if I could. Ole Miss. Even though they're not been running the ball, Jackson Dart, these receivers that are banged up, that high flying. So I put Ole Miss in that top 3.
Yeah.
A&M. Again, I get it. They're an easy target right now. People making fun of them. Connor Wigman's been great. They still got these receivers. They've got a top rusher, Amari Daniels. I think he's number 10 in the SEC. So they got pieces. I got to put A&M in there. And then this will probably catch you off guard. Another one that's kind of falling a little flat. LSU. Because even in the Florida State game, they were scoring. They couldn't convert in the red zone. The defense is what killed them in that one. So those are my top 3. But the fact that I've said those 3, and they each kind of have issues, I mean, I think that goes to show it's been a down year for SEC offense so far.
Yeah. I get you. And I guess this is more for me is it's not statistically because, I mean, you could throw an Alabama in there. You could definitely throw Georgia. If you're looking at stats alone. But what South Carolina has been doing here, especially, I know, again, it's Furman, but what they did week 1 against North Carolina, they had little spurts of, I think when I look at offense, it's just quarterback play. And I'm not kissing Spencer's ass by no means, but he's playing better than a lot of quarterbacks in the league right now. So I'm going to put him in there, and we're now getting a healthy Wales in there, and Legette's, he's a monster himself. So yeah, I would put South Carolina in that list. But everybody else, I think you got to put Georgia in there, and obviously sluggish starts out of the gate, but complete football team. So. I think Georgia's got to be in the top 3 as well.
And Joshua didn't ask this, but I threw these in there too. 2 that have been disappointing that I think should be in this mix, but they haven't earned it yet. Tennessee, and Arkansas. I think Arkansas should be up there.
Arkansas, well, Kentucky. I mean, I thought Kentucky was another one that would be further along than they are right now. So, I'm with you on those.
All right, how about the top 3 defenses, Shane? Georgia. Mizzou,
definitely.
And then this one I had a tough time with because you could put a couple different, but little wild card. Mississippi State. How about that?
I like that. Tennessee, not too far.
Yeah.
I think they've definitely improved quite a bit. I think that's an easy list right there. Are we going to do disappointed?
Yeah, I have 2 as well.
Okay.
Bama, I think is disappointing. Yeah. They should be better. And A&M. With all those linemen, they should be better.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be I thought that was the baby.
Right.
So really been disappointed after 2 weeks.
Now, we kind of already answered this. I'm going to butcher this name because it's a hard one.
Would you throw? Nah, I guess you can't. The LSU week 1 looked god awful.
Right.
But it felt like we've. That's the problem with cupcake games. You just want to throw it out because it was just. But the defense looked really good week 2, and it looks like they've corrected a little bit. Perkins is now going to be an X factor again. Imagine
that.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I could see Brian says, I can only imagine in the meeting, I'd be like, I got an idea. Let's let Perkins cook, It's like, let's let him play. So I think there's some programs that may not be in the top 3 right now, but easily could be in the top 3 by the end of the season. LSU's one of those.
Yeah. Again, this guy, I don't know how to say the name, Sachuluk. It's a tough one. But who's on the hot seat if they lose this week? And on the last episode, we already kind of hit on Pittman. We already hit on Drinkwitz. And it's not that we dislike those coaches.
Yeah.
But considering non-conference opponents at home, year 4, again, we're not firing these guys if they lose, but it feels like must wins for each of them. So I'm going to throw a different one at you, Shane, and Billy Napier. I think he's firmly on the hot seat if they lose to Tennessee this week at home.
At home, yeah, I get that. Because, and again, this is one of those games each fan base thinks they're going to win, knows they're going to win.
Right.
And sometimes that's when feelings really get hurt. And I think you're right there. And I believe that it's going to come down to how many. Like if Tennessee does win this game, do they win by 3 scores? Then it gets hot.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a close game, comes down to the wire, and they lose by 1 or 2, then I think he'll be fine there. That's definitely a good one. Drink is the easy one.
Yeah.
Drink's going to be the easy one. Obviously, Jimbo should not lose this week, but
I almost put him down, but I was like, he ain't gonna lose this one, right?
That's if you lose, you're fired immediately,
right?
But other than that, I think all the other coaches are pretty good right now.
All right, how about Mississippi boy, Shane? If Ole Miss can fix the O-line problems, do they have a chance to go 3-0 against Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas starting next week? And let me pull up the schedule real quick because I know the Bama game is at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is at home. And then LSU, I believe, is also on the road. No, LSU's at home. At Bama, LSU at home, Arkansas at home. Can they beat all 3 of those with an elite running game, fix the O-line? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we're 2 weeks in, and there's not any team that just looks like a wrecking ball in the West right now. So that leaves doors open. Not just open, I mean like freaking cracked open. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Ole Miss can walk in and steal first place West they got a stretch, but if they
Which one of those you think is the toughest though? At Bama, LSU at home, Arkansas at home.
Well, the problem is it's Georgia. I
know. Let's not even look that far ahead. I'm just saying of those three, that Ole Miss is gonna play here in the next month.
I'm gonna go Alabama because I feel like we get a little different Nick Saban that week because
they're gonna add a quarterback between now and then. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the one I'm leaning toward.
Yeah, on the road. I think that's an easy answer.
But the problem is, again, the Georgia. If this team is going to win, they've got to beat all those. They can only lose one.
Mm-hmm.
I would think. Well, maybe not. Georgia. I don't know. That's going to be a tough. That's why this year's going to be wild, man. Because I think that's what we're going to have. We may have another 2-loss team going to the SEC championship.
Could you imagine? I know we're just going to lose all these Ole Miss people, but I'm going to say it anyway. Imagine if they beat all 3 of those at Bama, LSU, Arkansas. They'll be on cloud 9. They'll be probably top 5 in the country. Yeah. And then imagine they don't even win the damn West because they got A&M. At Georgia, at Mississippi State, at all. I mean, that's not a guarantee
There's
either.
never a week off. Never a week off. So brutal schedule, but absolutely. I mean, they've out of all the teams, I'm the highest on them right now as far as momentum, beating a top 20 team with Tulane. I mean, it was a big win for them. So just keep it going. Who knows? Ole Miss may be the team.
Now I really like this question, Shane, from Logan Timmons. That's a cool name. More likely to get benched this Saturday.
Yeah.
Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Georgia, playing South Carolina. Or Joe Milton down there in Florida. # Go Dogs.
Joe Milton.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of
Joe Milton. I even say that down there. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't even need to be hyping up Nico at this point in time, but still, easy answer is Joe Milton. I think
I'm guilty. Here I was just bitching about the media, and we are part of the problem. I'm seriously, I'm in the Joe camp, and if I got to say it a million times to convince myself, that's all we need is a big game, and then I truly think he'll be fine. He just needs to break the seal, man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. All right, how about this one from Rick Wilson, Shane? Seeing how bad Mississippi State's offensive coordinator Kevin Barbay is,
Yeah.
Isn't it hilarious? We're out after 2 weeks. We're 2-0.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's he's got to go.
Get him.
Why would Arnett have fired Leach's entire staff? He's talking about the offensive staff, and starting with a rebuild of an air raid roster coming off a 9-win season. Makes no sense. Is it arrogance? Is it an ego problem? What is it? And it's easy to say right now, Shane, because they've been not looking great on offense, obviously.
Yeah.
But, hey, we've said this many a time, Shane. We love the Pirate.
Yeah.
He's featured right there. He'll always be featured on this show. He's featured at the end of the show. Never going to say a bad word about the Pirate. But it was the offense that was the issue at Mississippi State, kind of holding them back the last year or two. So, again, maybe they should have stuck with some air raid principles and brought in a new air raid guy, but are they ever going to run the air raid as well as the man that ran it better than anyone in the history of college football? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I think he made a calculated decision saying, well, this has not been working that well, and let me bring in someone that's not going to do it as well as Leach. How's that going to play out?
Yeah.
I think he made this decision to help his defense, to be more ground and pound, because even when Mississippi State gets a great receiver, damn, Georgia takes him, Ole Miss takes him, with the transfer portal. I don't know, I think it's a lot easier to get a running back and some offensive linemen at Mississippi State than it is to get these high-flying receivers to want to go down there. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is a move he felt in his heart of hearts would be best for the program. And it may not look it up to this point, but they are 2-0, and I understand his decision, if that makes sense.
Well, it's a clean slate too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, coming in, it's like, like you're dating this girl and you go over there and then you see his toothbrush and his shirt laying in the floor, and you're reminded of how great he grills steaks. It's like you don't want to hear any of that. I mean, you respect the Pirate. Obviously, he's going to be plastered all over that program and will be for a long, long time. And but again, you're trying to make a name for yourself. So I don't disagree with it. I would have done the same. You would have done the same thing,
Yeah.
Instead of trying to kind of mimic what we were doing. Now, it does surprise me that there's not a few more aspects of what we saw last year, because you do have the pieces for that. So, but again, something we talked about in week 1, 2, maybe that's what they've been kind of holding back a little bit for a team like LSU.
Mm-hmm. Now, basically, all the rest of these are about your lock of the week. So, real quick, Ashley, big Gator fan, how much money would it take for Cousin Shane to say "Go Gators" on the show this week?
Oh, it ain't happening. Yeah, not this week. No, I'm sorry, Ashley. She's been following a long, long time, man. But I just can't. I can't do that. And it is funny. The locks. That's when I get all the time in. It almost feels like a power, like a superpower, like I can fix. And I don't think I haven't thought about throwing it on Kansas State or throwing it on the Florida Gators or something like that and using this power in my favor. But I don't know. I still haven't locked anything down yet.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Clayton Parker wants to know, does Cousin Shane love Tennessee football enough to make Florida his lock of the week?
Yeah, I thought about it, man. But, typically I don't like to influence the volunteer game, if you notice. And obviously I have no power here in Little East Tennessee on this couch, but in my mind,
I think you do. I think you do. Philip Yo, he does too.
I was Googling, like this is potentially 0-6 on locks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was Googling how, flipping a coin, what's the odds? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Of you getting heads 6 times in a row. It's astronomical, so I don't even know if
you're one of a kind. Philip Yo wants to know, Cousin Shane, would you rather get your lock of the week right for this time or the Vols win in the swamp?
Vols, man. Yeah, because we got some great interviews lined up. The problem is Tennessee's not won down there in 20 years, Mike. And I heard the rivalry question. You're going to hear it on the interview, and it really stuck out to me because you're right. The Florida game is more of a rivalry to Tennessee because we haven't won as much as we would like. In Florida, it's still a big deal. It's still a lot of shit talking going on, but it's not as big as a Georgia game or maybe an LSU matchup. And I get that. I totally understand. So going down to the Swamp and beating them, something we've not done in 20 years, there's been some close ones. Dobbs had one that was really close, and the Hail Mary with what's his name. I mean, there's been a lot of great games and a lot of opportunities for Tennessee to win. And somehow we find a way. It's like the Bambino curse, It's like they find a way to lose. So absolutely,
this is how you make it a rivalry. You win in Gainesville. You make it a competitive series, something that it's not really been all that often.
Absolutely, man.
Well, speaking of our interviews, we'll get to them in just a second, Shane, but we got to let the audience know we're brought to you by MyBookie. Head on over to mybookie.ag today and put in that promo code SEC, THATSEC. Get in on the action over at mybookie.ag today. They got not only college football, but NFL, NBA, hockey. They got all the sports over at MyBookie today that you can wager on. And with that promo code, SEC, they will match your initial deposit all the way up to 50%, up to $1,000. So $1,500, Shane. To fade Cousin Shane and become a millionaire. You can do it over at MyBookie with that promo code SEC. We're also brought to you by Game Time Sidekicks. Shane, we love our Game Time Sidekicks here. And even though Shane was bashing that Milton, I've never seen him without that Milton cup in his hand since he's had it. So head on over to Game Time Sidekicks at the checkout. This is the important part. Put in that promo code SEC. Get 20% off your entire order. And we promise you'll love your Game Time Sidekicks, stainless steel, officially licensed NCAA gear. They got every team in the SEC covered over at Game Time Sidekicks. We're also partnered up with Prize Picks, Shane, for once again, Prize Picks daily fantasy sports. Why we love Prize Picks, they got all the sports, but they got college football. So there's SEC players to pick from each and every week. Head on over to Prize Picks, same promo code as Game Time, SEC, and they are willing to match your initial deposit up to $100 instantly. So you can have $200 in your account over at Prize Picks. And we can't pick a game to save our life, but I can pick a Prize Picks. You know what?
Absolutely, man. That's the only reason we're breaking even here.
All right, Shane, so let's kick it over to our interview. Eric Cain, Volquest, Locked On Vols. This is a really good one. Well, we were pleased to be joined by one of our favorites. Eric Cain covers Tennessee for Volquest, the go-to site for Tennessee information, and of course, the host of the Locked On Vols podcast. Eric, how's it going, man?
Doing well, man. It's a big week. These big game weeks are always so much fun. When Tennessee wins, the reaction to those are so much fun. But I love this Florida week. It's been fun so far, and looking forward to the game.
Yeah, and for people our age, this is the big game for Tennessee because it generally dictates how well the season is going to be for the Vols and really for the Gators as well. So I want to start right there. I'm sure you're tired of getting asked about Joe Milton and the passing game and all this. So I really wanted to ask you about the pressure on these coaches to win this football game. Josh Heupel, Billy Napier, which one do you think has more pressure this season and for the trajectory of their program to get a win in this game?
It's a really good question because I think there's pressure on both sides. We'll start on the Tennessee side, of course. Hadn't won in the Swamp in 20 years. Florida's down. You're coming off an 11-win campaign. Everybody and their mother's picking you to win. Even after the uninspiring offensive production against Austin Peay, you're still a touchdown favorite. So it's like, if you're not going to win in the Swamp this year, when the hell are you ever going to win in the Swamp is what I want to know, right? So, there's some pressure there. Plus, I've been calling it the tempo setter for the season. I mean, you go down to Florida and you win this game, then you feel good about some of these other quote-unquote toss-up games. Like, you go down the Swamp, beat Florida, you feel good about South Carolina, A&M at home. You feel better about Kentucky on the road, and, of course, Alabama, Georgia. You just need to get this one. Now, and it's a rivalry game. Enough said. Now, on Florida's side, speaking with Andy Staples earlier this week, he came on the Rocky Top Rewind, and Nick Delatorre of the Gators Online. They have 3 or 4 rivalry games as well, and this one at home against Tennessee is probably the most winnable, if you will, if you're Florida, because FSU's really hot right now. The LSU, Georgia, some of these other ones that are on their schedule, it's going to be kind of tough. So winning this one against Tennessee at home is probably the most doable, if you will, if you're Florida. Plus, in Billy Napier, it's year 2, and I know he's preached patience down there, and I get it. I think Billy Napier is a pretty good coach. But when you look around the country, look what Josh Heupel did in year 2. Look at what Deion Sanders is doing right now. Look at what some of these other coaches are doing in year 1 and year 2. There's not a lot of patience in fan bases in college football. So I think this would be a huge one for Florida if Florida's able to get it. But pressure on both sides for sure. Probably more pressure, I would say, for Florida, even though Tennessee hasn't won the Swamp in 20 years. But pressure on both sides for sure. And
don't overlook that rivalry Florida has with Vanderbilt. I'm just kidding, but they did lose to them last week.
That is true.
So, huge talking point on Rocky Top all week. Joe Milton, passing game. We're lacking the explosive plays. Do you feel that Tennessee is just a few adjustments away? Because, it's easy to look at the numbers and say they're struggling, but I see it as, a penalty here or there, a pass a little too high, a receiver drops a ball. It feels to me like they're just a couple of adjustments away from really clicking.
Yeah, I don't think this offense sucks. I don't think it's going to be bad. I don't think Joe Milton's going to be horrible. Now, Joe Milton's not going to be Hendon Hooker, but he never was going to be Hendon Hooker. Listen, Joe Milton was not good against Austin Peay. It happens. It's football. He was inaccurate with the football, and that's what kind of plagued him earlier in his career at Michigan and when he got to Tennessee, the inaccuracies. And that's something he's really improved on. I think you saw it a little bit against Virginia. You saw it in the starts that he had last year. And even in the mop-up duties, you can tell that he's really been working on, some touch passes on throwing it down the field and being more accurate with the short and the intermediate game. But he was not very accurate with the football against Austin Peay, throwing behind receivers, throwing high, this and that. Now, there were 4 passes that 3 wide receivers and 1 running back just dropped. Good balls, just dropped. And some of these bad throws, they were getting 2 hands on it. They just weren't coming down with it. I understand they're not great throws, but if you have a struggling quarterback, help them out. Reel it in, right? So this whole week I've been saying it's not just Joe. It's not just the wide receivers. It's the whole passing game. They were all together was bad against Austin Peay. So, we'll see what happens. But you're right. Ramel Keaton drops an 80-yard bomb against Virginia. How different does that stat line look? Instead of throwing at the hip, you throw right here at the numbers. That's a walk-in touchdown for Dante Thornton against Austin Peay. Ramel Keaton fumbles in the red zone. 3 holding penalties on Tennessee's wide receivers near the red zone on back-to-back drives. Again, that officiating crew was so bad last week. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. But they obviously had something they were looking for in this game with the wide receivers blocking on the perimeter, and they called it excessively. There was some missed defensive pass interference on Squirrel White on 3rd down in the end zone that was missed. So you're right. If shoulda, coulda, woulda, if this thing happened here, it could be a completely different story. But at the end of the day, it's not. So I think Tennessee's offense is going to be fine. If it's not looking improved this week, I think the crowd gets a little louder and getting a little bit more impatient. But I think it's going to be fine, and I'm intrigued to see how it responds in a hostile environment against an SEC defense, against a rival. Again, there's so many storylines in this game, and I'm super pumped to see Tennessee's offense and see what it can do.
Yeah, well, and speaking of overreactions and crazy fans, that's why we got jobs, because these people care so much. But I heard even today, Eric, if Tennessee wins by a close margin, is it time to switch to Nico?
No,
I'm like,
good God, you haven't won in 20 years in the Swamp. I don't care. Football's football. It's a rivalry game. It's a road game in the SEC. Now, if you win by 3 or 4 and Milton throws 5 picks, then okay, let's have a conversation. If Milton plays okay and Tennessee wins the game by a small margin, a win's a win. You take it. Just because Tennessee's a touchdown favorite doesn't mean Tennessee's going to win by a touchdown. Look at last year. Tennessee was beating the crap out of Florida at home, and you only ended up winning by 5 points. These games are wacky. The series is wacky. How many times over the last decade have both these teams been bad, and Tennessee had the game and Florida just took it? I mean, I can think of 2 situations right off the top of my head right now. So, no. And again, that's nothing to Nico or anything. And that's not to say that Joe Milton is Superman right now. I mean, if he struggles, a couple of weeks in a row, then anything's on the table. But I mean, if he plays okay and Tennessee, barely scrapes out a win, like you count your blessings, you take that win back to Knoxville and get to work.
What do you think Tennessee's biggest advantage is in this matchup?
Running the football. I like Jalen Wright a lot. Jabari Small, no one's talking about him. He's having a good year too, but Jalen Wright's on a different level right now. I like Tennessee's run game, and I think that should give Joe some confidence. Joe's got a good run game. If things aren't going well, rely on that run game. If things aren't going well, attack the perimeter, the screen game, the bubble game like you did in the second half. And I know you asked about the strength, and I'll come back to the run game, but also Virginia and Austin Peay both are playing 2 high safeties the entire time, backing up, trying to keep everything in front of you. Florida is an SEC defense. Florida's going to do what it wants to do. Single high safety at points in times, they're going to say, hey, Joe, come throw it my way. Come throw it down the field. Let's see if you can complete passes, and let's see if he can do that. A lot of Tennessee was just taking what the defenses were giving them the last couple of games. And again, Joe was bad last week. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but a lot of it the last 2 weeks was just taking what the defense can give them. But the run game, back to your original point, your original question, the run game, I really like that for Tennessee. I think that can be a strength this game, especially on the road. I like Tennessee's defensive front. I do. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like against an SEC offensive line because I think it's going to be good. Tennessee's going to play 12 guys up front. They're going to get after the quarterback. I really like Omar Norman Lott and Amari Thomas in the interior, James Pierce on the edge. So I think those are some strengths Tennessee has working in their favor going into this game.
What about a weakness that you think Florida could exploit on this Tennessee team?
Well, Joe Milton and the passing game have got to respond the right way. That's a given, right? I mean, you got to respond. You got to respond. You got to bounce back and be better than you were last week. Special teams, horrible, horrible in week 1. Responded the right way in week 2. Got a lot of work with the punt team, which was not great against Austin Peay. But I thought Jackson Ross responded well. But he had some bad punts in week 1, and you're going to be going on the road, screaming fans, all that type of stuff. How does he punt the first couple of times out there? Because look, the third phase of the game, nobody talks about it, but field position is so critical. Can D. Williams pop one to maybe score or give the offense a short field? That can be a strength or a weakness for Tennessee. So I'll be watching the punt game, of course, because it was such a thrill of minute in week 1. The passing game, of course, and overall just to see what this secondary looks like if the front line can get a rush against Graham Mertz and that offensive line.
Will this game come down to simply Tennessee's ability to stop Florida from running the ball? Because in my mind, I can't see any path to victory for Florida if they can't run the ball.
Yeah, you look at Graham Mertz's stats, and I think he's completing 74% of his passes this year. And it's like, wow, that's pretty good. He completed 70% against Utah, which was a pretty good percentage considering he was throwing a ton. Don't quote me. I think he threw 44 times in that loss, but they were playing from behind the whole time. So, you look at the stats, only 2 touchdowns and interception. You look at the stats, it's like, oh, well, Graham Mertz has maybe improved a little bit. I don't know. Let's get into SEC play. Let's see it week after week after week. We saw Graham Mertz, who he was for 3 years in Big Ten football at Wisconsin. Everybody can improve. They're saying the same thing about Joe Milton. I get it. Everybody can improve. But I agree with you. Florida has got to run the football. Florida was completely one-dimensional, couldn't do a thing against Utah. Anything against McNeese, I don't take into consideration. I know they ran for 300 yards, and Tennessee did too against Virginia and Austin Peay. But they've got to run the football. I think that if Tennessee gets up early, just like Utah kind of had the blueprint, right? If Tennessee goes up a couple scores in that first quarter, first half, I think Florida is in trouble because Florida is not built to come back because they want to run the football. Like you said, with ETN and Johnson, they got 2 pretty good ones. Tennessee, on the other hand, ideally you don't want to get behind, but if you are behind, you're built to score in a hurry and you can come back. So I think the first 8-9 minutes of the ball game is going to be critical. And Florida, if it can't run the football, I think it's in for a long day.
Is there any updates on Cooper Mays? Do you anticipate that he's going to play in this game?
We'll see, man. I know, Josh, if you follow Josh Heupel's press conferences, I mean, we make fun of it because it's the same coach speak, generic answer. Oh, we'll get him out there on the grass and see how he looks at the end of the week. But this week, it's true. It's an injury to where he just got back to practice on Tuesday for the first time. He did some side work last week, but he truly practiced for the first time on Tuesday. How was he on Wednesday? How was he Thursday and Friday to end the week? And how does his body respond to it? So we'll see. We expect him to make the trip. We expect him to dress. It might be one of those, warm-ups, game time decision. Even if he plays, I think there's still going to be a rotation at center because, he hadn't practiced in 5 weeks. A couple days in camp, and then he's been out since. So conditioning and Tennessee's tempo conditioning, I think it's going to take him a little while to get back up to speed. So I think there's a good chance of him playing. I do. I think there is a great, great, great chance of him playing next week against UTSA. So we'll see, but that's the latest on Cooper Mays. And if he can go, Tennessee will play him because he is so valuable to this offense.
All right, last thing, Eric, really appreciate your time, but I'm not putting this out till Thursday, so I don't want to ruin anything for you, but have you made a prediction, and who do you think wins this ball game?
Yeah, I had a prediction on Thursday's Locked On Vols as well. We did a crossover. We'll have a prediction piece at volquest.com Friday afternoon as well. But, I'm thinking Tennessee. I've said all offseason Tennessee. I understand uninspired football last week against Austin Peay. A little bit in the first half against Virginia. I get it. They got to clean some things up, but I just think that Tennessee's got better weapons right now. You got Ricky Pearsall. You've got a young 5-star receiver in Eugene Wilson, the third, Trey, they call him. I think he's going to be good. Nick Delatorre called him the, was it a knockoff Percy Harvin? Like he lives in the suburbs, drives an SUV. I thought that was pretty funny. But he's going to be a good one. But, not a whole lot of weapons. And Tennessee, though they haven't been playing like it, Tennessee's got weapons. Brew McCoy, Ramel Keaton, Squirrel White. Dante Thornton hadn't done a thing yet. Mm-hmm. He hadn't done a thing yet. And the coaches are still super high on him. So, we'll see. I think it's going to be Tennessee on the road in the swamp, which is crazy to say. I like Tennessee to cover the spread, but, 7-8 points, 35-27, 35, 24, somewhere around there. But I think the first part of the game, the first quarter is going to be critical. I think Tennessee's got to establish the run, and I think Tennessee's got to get after the passer and force Graham Mertz into making those poor decisions that he's done in the past. So a couple things for Tennessee, but I like Tennessee. I've liked them all offseason in this game. I'm not going to change my tune. It's going to be tough. The game's going to be wacky. It can come down to the end, and it's like a point or two game or whatever. But I like the Vols there.
All right, before you go, Eric, can you tell my audience where can they find all your work?
Yeah, Tennessee fans or even Florida fans that kind of want a Tennessee preview to know about the Tennessee Volunteers before the game. Locked On Vols, 5 days a week. Today on Thursday we have a preview show coming up. Tomorrow I talk with my buddy Boogie Bentley, and then I give you my preview for Florida. So a whole lot of Florida coverage over at volquest.com. Matchup piece, 10 things I think, game predictions, previews, like 17 different weekday podcasts. We got so much over at volquest.com as well. And you can find all that and follow me on Twitter @_Cainer.
All right, Shay. So there you got it. Eric, he likes them Vols. He just went up in your stock, didn't he?
Yeah, I like Eric. He's definitely growing on me, and he said just the right things, to get me pumped up about this team. So, no, hell of an interview for sure.
Yeah. So we went to the other side. We got our buddy Matt Hayes. Haven't seen him since SEC Media Days. Yeah. Saturday Down South, 1010 XL. Great conversation. It's always fun catching up with Matt. Well, we're pleased to be joined by one of my favorites around the SEC, Matt Hayes, national columnist, Saturday Down South, Saturday Tradition, and, of course, a host down there at 1010 XL, Jacksonville Radio. Matt, thank you so much for joining me.
Michael, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, obviously I had to have you on because it's Florida-Tennessee week. This is such a big game for SEC East, and let me ask you this first, because this is interesting. I just got off the line with someone else, and they said this this is probably a top 3 rivalry in the SEC. And I said, well, for Tennessee fans, yes, but I don't think it is for Florida. What's your thoughts on that?
I think Georgia's obviously a bigger rival because they just haven't beat them as much lately.
Yeah.
I think if Tennessee starts to win consistently in the rivalry, which they could do, I think it becomes a bigger deal. I mean, if you had said what are the biggest rivalries in the SEC, I would probably say Alabama, Auburn, of course, at the top, and then probably Florida, Georgia, and then I mean you could go anywhere at number 3. You could easily put Alabama, Tennessee, or Tennessee, Florida, or there's a number of different ways you could go. Auburn, Georgia, as far as like historical impact to the league.
How big of a game is this for Billy Napier? Is it a must-win? Because I've been telling people, I don't care what the score is. They're not going to fire him on Sunday or anything crazy like that. But I think, to me, it could be the beginning of the end because he's got to win some of these key games. And he didn't win a single one last year. And if he can't beat this Tennessee team at home, I don't know that he's going to get another one on the schedule.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Mike. Number 1, I think you're exactly right. Number 2, I've been saying all week on my show, and it's Saturday Down South, that this is a big game for Billy because I truly believe he needs to give Gator Nation something to hang their hat on right now. He needs to give them something where they say, okay, now I see it. Now I understand what's going on. Now I understand what you're building. Now I understand what the future could look like. If Tennessee goes in there and wins like 30-6 or something like that, that's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. I think even if Tennessee goes in there and wins a close game, it's going to be a problem. Because, I mean, Florida fans, they're really no different than Tennessee fans. They want it now, And I think that Florida also, you look at the blueprint that Josh Heupel has really set up. I mean, he went 7-6 his first year. Second, they come out and boom, away they go. Now, the difference in quarterback is gigantic, obviously, from Hendon Hooker to Graham Mertz. But still, I think Florida fans need to feel like, okay, I see it. And that's kind of the narrative I've been using all week, Mike, is I see it now. Okay, I can wait this year. I might even be able to wait next year if you can win like 8 or 9 games next year. But then it's really got to happen after that.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is so much talk centered on Joe Milton and his inconsistent play heading into this game. But what are the odds that you give Graham Mertz kind of has a better game than Joe Milton, given that, the first game was obviously embarrassing, but not because of Mertz. I think he's been a solid addition so far for Florida.
So, Mike, it's interesting with Graham Mertz is I don't know that he's the type of quarterback that fits what Billy Napier wants to do, but he's the guy they got now. They do a lot of stuff that's bunch sets, a lot of like phone booth stuff. A lot of what offensive coordinators talk about. Defensive coordinators say the same thing. It's a lot of phone booth stuff. They don't stretch receivers to the numbers and stretch a defense out because you got to have a quarterback that can make that throw with velocity. A guy like Joe Milton, a guy like Hendon Hooker that can throw it out there. Because if it takes too long for that ball to get out there, then you've got an issue. You've got a pick 6 coming your way, or the blocking will never set up. You know how it is. So I don't think they're doing exactly what he wants to do offensively, and that's an issue. If you're asking me who is the better of the two, who do I think would play better, I would say odds are that Joe Milton plays better, only because he's in the system. He knows the system. He has a coach that has proven that system can win and play well in big games. I also think that Tennessee, Michael, I think they were very vanilla first couple games. I don't think they were showing anything. I think you're going to see a lot more from Tennessee this week. That doesn't mean that Florida wasn't vanilla last week against, I don't even know who they played. Who cares, right? Just the body bag game they played. McNeese State, that's who it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they weren't vanilla in that game, but I think you kind of saw where Florida was against Utah. And if that's what Florida is against Utah, if that's like, what's going to make them go this year, I mean, if I'm the Tennessee defensive coordinator, I'm licking my chops. If I'm any player on the Tennessee defense, I'm licking my chops because their offense is based off misdirection, not just the run game, but the pass game as well. You see all these different formations and motions and play action, and when you're trying to throw the ball, they simply just can't line up, have a receiver beat the corner and throw the ball to him because they can't do it. They're not that talented enough to do that. So then you've got to use all this misdirection, and you've got to use, where you're at the point where it's not just a simple offense. You're trying to confuse the defense instead of just going out there and saying, you know what, we're better than you. We're better than you, and our guys are going to show we're better than you. Whereas I think Tennessee can do that. I think Tennessee can just line up and say, we can run the ball. We're going to run the ball right at you. And, oh, by the way, we can throw the ball too.
Yeah, I think that was my next thing, Matt. I was going to get, all this hype around Milton. I think it's Tennessee's rushing attack. If they don't lead this game in rushing, I don't think Tennessee's got a prayer in this game. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the Tennessee offense is the run game. It's so funny because you think of Josh Heupel and all the quarterbacks and all they've done, and look at their run game. Look what they've done in 2 years under him. Then go back to UCF. Then go back to when he was at Missouri. Then go back to when he was at Oklahoma. The run game is everything, the downhill run game. It's everything to that offense. It's everything the way he sets up that entire situation. So, yeah, if they can't run the ball, that's going to be a problem. Now, I will say this. I would expect Florida to line up and get after it and try and overload the box and try and force Milton to win in man situations outside because they want to stop the run. That's the key. And then get them in third and long situations where they can bring a little pressure. And then you see if Milton can be more of I got to get out of the pocket and throw it accurately, which he really hasn't proven consistently. So that's the situation they want to be in. But to be in that situation, you've got to stop the run. And I don't know that they're that strong up the middle at interior defensive tackle, at middle linebacker, at safety. I don't know that they're strong enough there yet. They've got a lot of young guys that I think in a year or two will be very good. Like I think defensively, they're going to be very good in a year. But again, you've got to start winning these games for Florida fans to believe and to say, okay, I can wait that year. I can wait a year and a half, 2 years.
How big of an impact do you think Florida's new defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, will have on this game?
I think he's going to have a huge impact. I don't know that he will, Mike. I mean, they have to be in a situation where they stop the run. If they don't stop the run, I don't know how they stop that offense. Then you're looking at Tennessee scoring 30s, maybe even 40s. And that's not just Florida. That's anyone that plays Tennessee. If you can't stop them running the ball, it's a long, long game. So I think they're going to, like I said earlier, they're going to load it up. And he's a guy that likes to bring pressure. He's a guy that likes to do exotic blitzes. So my guess is they're throwing everything at him now. And I don't think they did that in the first two games, especially against Utah. I don't think they did that. I think what they tried to do against Utah was basically play zone and force those guys to throw on them, and Utah couldn't. And I think that helped them. I think you're going to see a lot more man stuff this week against Tennessee. A lot of more, okay, we're coming after you. Let's see you make a quick throw as opposed to we're going to play zone. Let's see you find the right throw.
Now, I'm not putting out this interview till Thursday, Matt. Do you have a prediction for the game?
Yeah, I think Florida's going to play really well, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I think they'll play well enough to stay in the game in the fourth quarter, but I think Tennessee probably pulls away late, something like 30-26.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you one other thing, Matt, because I've told you this before, and I swear it's true. Anytime you write something, I got to run to read it. You wrote about Jalen Milroe and kind of his usage there,
right?
Alabama. What can you just kind of rehash that for the audience? Because that's the biggest coaching mishap, I think, in the SEC so far this season.
Well, here's the thing, too, is I'm not exactly sure it's all on him. Because I think if you look at that Alabama offense, the offensive line, Mike, has been average at best the last 2 years. The last 2 years before this year, they gave up 65 sacks, despite having a magician back there at quarterback, who if you had someone who wasn't as fleet of foot, who could not move around the pocket, how many sacks would they have given up? They also gave up 165 tackles for losses, 167, I think, in the last 2 years. So we shouldn't have been surprised that what happened in that game is Texas got after Milroe, and they forced quicker decisions. He made a couple mistakes. I'm not blaming this on him. You look at Alabama, what do they have at receiver? Do they have any of those guys they used to have in the 2020 season? They're not even close to that. So I look at that. I look at the run game. They don't have a marquee running back either. So you can say a lot of things about Alabama, and you can complain about, what the offense looks like, but they don't have the guys they used to have. And you know what, too, Mike? They don't have the guys in defense they used to have either. I mean, has Dallas Turner has he improved since his freshman season? And you look on that defense and you start to say, all right, well, who scares you right now on that defense? And I'm not sure there's a guy that scares you on that defense right now, which is shocking compared to what it used to be at Alabama.
Now, that being said, though, is Alabama still the team to beat in the West? Because perfect opportunity for LSU, A&M, maybe an Ole Miss, maybe even an Arkansas to jump up. But I don't have confidence in any team to grab that right now.
No, I don't either. And I also am not going to be a guy that says Alabama's dumb because I don't think they are, but I think they've got issues. I think they have issues unlike anything they've ever had since Nick has been there since the second season. The first season, clearly, they were not that good of a team. But I think since 2008, they haven't had anything close to these issues that they're having right now. So I'm not writing them off. If you had to ask me who would be the favorite right now, I would probably say LSU. But I'm like you. I'm intrigued by Ole Miss because I think they're a little bit better defensively, and they can run the ball, man. That's another thing. We talk about Josh Heupel in Tennessee, how the run is everything. And, again, the same thing with Lane Kiffin. You think of Lane Kiffin, and you think of quarterback and pass game. Man, they run the ball, and they run it well. So when you have somebody that can do that can dictate tempo in a game, and that can play relatively pretty good on defense, which I think they're there right now. I think they're, if you're going to give me like a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put them about a 6.5 on defense, maybe trending towards 7. Mm-hmm. If you get there, I think you can win some big games in the league. They could have won the Alabama game last year, so I wouldn't rule them out. I wouldn't rule Arkansas out, just like you. I think it's going to be a wide open race in the West. Hell, I wouldn't rule Texas A&M out either.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Jimbo Fisher is their head coach, but that's
right,
all.
So.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you so much. Before you go, can you tell my audience where can they find all your work?
Well, it's any of the Saturday football sites. It's Saturday Down South, Saturday Tradition, Saturday Out West, and Saturday Road. And I just wrote a column yesterday on Saturday Road about Mac Brown in North Carolina, how North Carolina should just, play Trez Walker, the guy that the NCAA is forcing to sit out. Just play him, and what the hell is the NCAA going to do? What are they going to do if you play him? I mean, at this point, what are they going to do? Yeah. Because, when you think about it, a decade ago, North Carolina had the academic scandal where they had bogus classes that more than 3,100 student athletes were funneled to, right? And at the end of the day, 7-8 years later, the NCAA said, well, we didn't see academic fraud, which is, so the NCAA is not going to – they're not going to kneecap a blue blood. In North Carolina, if you're talking about the properties, the television property, the idea of North Carolina – you are not going to kneecap someone like that. So I would just play him. And what are they going to do? Tell you have to vacate games? And this is what I wrote. If you're North Carolina, what do you say? Okay, great. I don't care. We're not vacating games. How about that? And then you just move forward. Because, honestly, at some point, Mike, we're going to get to the point where the football schools will move away. I truly believe this is what's going to – I know we're way off course here, man. But I truly believe at some point the football schools will move away and – all the other sports will go back to the conferences they used to be in. And it'll just be like football. Mm-hmm. And then you'll start to – because you can't have this travel is ridiculous, especially when you start talking about you're going to have to pay the players. That's going to have to happen. So are you going to pay the players and pay for this crazy travel? So something has to give there. It's one or the other. And you're not getting out of paying the players. You're not making close to $5 billion annually when you're talking about all the conference television rights put together and the playoff, added the new playoff on there, the new contract in 2026. You're not making close to $5 billion annually and saying, yeah, we're just going to give the players a scholarship and a little $5,500 a semester stipend. No chance in hell that happens.
And, Matt, I think the fans would be on board with all those moves happening, and no one's going to shed a tear for the NCAA.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ooh, boy, Matt always brings the heat, doesn't he?
I love it, man. I was telling you off air, man, I think that I wanted to find out more about the Florida-Tennessee matchup, but then he started getting in that Alabama and the NCAA, man. I'd like to have a couple cold beers with him and let him know exactly what we think. So this was awesome. Awesome interviews, pumped up. Man, he got me excited about I think that, but this is what they do, Mike. It's almost like Nick Saban coming out here telling me how great USF is. It's like, wait, does he really mean that, or is he just trying to get us to hurt a little more when they beat us? So a fantastic interview for sure.
Yeah, well, that's all I got, buddy. You got anything before we hop off the line?
No, don't forget tomorrow live. We're going to be here at 6 doing the picks. and you'll officially hear what the lock of the week will be.
I can tell you've got the power. You've got the lock power.
I feel it now. I feel it. I do. I just wish it was like another power, like
more useful,
I could run faster, or I could lose weight quicker, or something like that. But no, it's I can lose money better than anybody in the country.
Yeah. So again, tune in 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 Central, live. And if you can't make the live, it'll still hit your feed as normal. But we love hanging out. People interact with us all throughout the show. So tune in if you can, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 Central, to make our picks for all the SEC games. And we haven't said this in a while, Shane. Give us a 5-star written review on Apple or Spotify, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That thing's blowing up.
Yeah.
And we would appreciate each and every one of you that head on over to give us a review and subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, tonight I'm thinking about putting a pretty crazy bet on that Tennessee-Florida game, Mike. So be sure to tune in 6, and we'll roll that one out as well.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you for hanging out, and I appreciate all the cousins out there. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols.